Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always, hopefully you'll have something to say for hello this week, or this episode. I say this week, because it's usually a weekly show. It's a horror movie podcast, but this is the October-thon. Every day in October we're putting out a new episode, and it's slowly killing us on the inside, and we'll be merely dead husks by the come November 1st. But that's okay. Tim's here.
Hello, how do you do?
I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting nothing, and yet I'm still disappointed.
Yeah. I like to, yeah, I like to get people to not expect too much from me.
Lower your expectations. That should be our new slogan. This is not a regular episode. A regular episode, of course, is we have watched a horror movie. We get together and we talk about it in depth for anything from 30 to 60, 70, 80 minutes, depending on the movie. Sometimes it's even longer than that if it happens to be Rob Zombie's Halloween and I've got 2 hours of ranting to do. But this is the second half of a countdown. This is the second half of the top 50 horror movies of all time. But not our top 50 horror movies of all time. Your top 50 horror movies of all time, because this list was all based on entries submitted by you guys. This was a voted for list by the Screams After Midnight / Male Fuzz TV community, and we already did part 1. Part 1 had numbers 50 through 26, so check that out, or if you haven't already. This is going to be numbers 25 through number 1, and we'll see how controversial your crazy picks are, and what made it high up on the list.
So this is the final countdown.
Do 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 do. You asked for it. Thank you, Tim.
Now, when we did the other countdown for this month of our worst movies, so we had a little. I don't want to say bet, but I guess we made like a little thing where we do an extra episode if we ever got 2 of the same things on the list, and I'm kind of tempted to do something similar.
Oh God!
For today, like I granted I don't want to. I mean I don't know what you think. Like I don't want to make more work for us, but
Hold on.
I don't know.
Well, let me hear what the actual. Before we get to the stakes, what is the wager?
I was just gonna wager maybe we'll do something special if The Boy makes it on the list.
You can name any stake you want, Tim.
All right, I'm I mean we could just do like another maybe another bonus episode. I suppose. I don't know. I'm fairly confident it's gonna show up. So.
I'm saying nothing.
Okay.
I'm saying nothing. If you want me that promise, if you want to say, I don't know.
Again, I don't want to make more work for myself, but I think I might have a little bit of a gambling problem. So, I don't know. We'll have that on the table. If we do another movie, it'll be something I pick.
I mean, I don't know if we could feasibly fit anything else in October, but I mean, if you want to like promise them like a bonus extra one at Christmas or something like that, then sure.
I don't know. We'll throw something in at some point.
Okay.
I don't know. So there's the bet. I guess we'll do something at some point if this thing happens.
So vague, I love it. Well, without further ado, I will start us off with number 25. Number 25 on the list of 50 best horror movies as voted for by you guys is Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a great pick. It's another one. I think kind of the thing we end up talking about most on this list is like stuff that we do or do not consider horror movies, which yeah, obviously this is like horror comedy, but
I mean, I would say I think horror comedies are perfectly valid on a top horror list.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, definitely. It's one of those things where it doesn't always come to my mind when making a list because, maybe I'm not horror comedies aren't always on the top of my brain, but I mean, if you're gonna think of one, this is one of the best. Sorry.
I bet it would come to mind though if the category was zombies though. If you said pick the best zombie movies, you'd probably still think of this one. But if you're just thinking horror movies, you might not because it's a horror comedy in your head first, and you might keep them in a separate little compartment next to where your creepy thoughts are. About Brahms.
But I mean, I think what's great about this though is, I mean, obviously it's just very well done, and the what's tough about horror comedies, I feel like a lot of times is it. One thing works while the other doesn't. Like, a lot of times I'm like, all right, well, maybe the horror was kind of cool, but then the comedy sucked, or maybe the comedy sucked, but the horror wasn't cool. And this is one that definitely manages to do both. Like you said, you can just put it right up there with zombie movies because the zombie stuff still works on its own while it's also incredibly funny.
Yes, I'm just responding to a tweet from the Screams account right now.
Oh, okay.
Someone responded to one of the Screams tweets. It said you could always tell which one of you is tweeting from the account at any given time. And I looked at what the tweet was, and it just said, "Oh my God, Tim is a horror god." So I'm just responding with saying, "Oh, what gave it away?"
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't for sure say which one of us wrote that, but I mean, whoever did, I like it. I approve.
If anyone thinks I wrote that, leave and never come back. Yes, Shaun of the Dead is one that I saw in theaters in 2004, and I was 15 at the time, and I don't think I loved it at the time. I think it's one that I appreciated more when I saw it again, maybe a few years later.
Sure.
For whatever reason. And I think do you know what I think it is? I think I appreciate it way more after Hot Fuzz, because I think Hot Fuzz is an even better movie. Obviously, it's not related to horror in any way, although there is one really gory kill in it, which is very horror-esque. But
yeah, I think it's tangentially related. It's definitely going more in the action route, but I think there's like a few
the
kind
cult
of things you could
element. Yeah, I suppose there's a couple of little things, but definitely that feels more like a comedy about cops and action movies, whereas this is a comedy about zombie movies. So
I think what did it for me at first was I remember I was working at Blockbuster at the time when it came out, and we used to have these like events where they would kind of, I don't think they would ever do anything like this nowadays because everything is like so corporatized and stuff, but like they had,
also
regional...
I'm pretty sure Blockbuster doesn't exist anymore.
Well, yeah, obviously. Yeah, that too. But like they would get like all like the different like regional Blockbusters together, and then they kind of threw this big like corporate event where everyone like hung out and they gave out prizes and all these free screeners. And I remember they were giving out screeners of this, and everyone's going crazy for it, like, oh, this is supposed to be so good. This is great. And I remember thinking it was so stupid because of the name. Like, the name is just a cheap, pun. It's like, oh, like Dawn of the Dead. I get it. Oh, like, I think now that I like the movie, I appreciate it more. But like at the time, I was like, that is so lame. But then, once I actually watched it, I, pretty quickly fell in love with it. Like, oh no, this is really good.
Yeah. Yeah, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Edgar Wright. What a trio! Edgar Wright's just a great writer and director, honestly. Even though I do think a couple of his films are a bit overrated by, film fans. I won't get into a rant about which those are right now, but
Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it was.
I think there's skill in all of his movies, but I do think there's a couple of his films that are a little loved too much.
I don't know. I like his whole Cornetto trilogy. I don't care if people want to get mad at me, but I'll say Baby Driver sucks. I hated that movie.
I don't think it sucked. I did have my problems with Baby Driver. I thought on a technical level it was pretty fantastic, but the story is what the problem was.
Technically, it's well directed and everything. I think my problem with that is all his other movies seem to kind of like, not really like making fun of, but they're kind of being like cheeky homages to the types of movies that they were maybe not like over the top parodying, but you know what I mean, like the first one's a zombie movie and the other one's like all those kind of like dumb action movies and stuff. But with Baby Driver, I feel like like he was actually just trying to be like those kind of movies, and I don't know, I thought it was dumb, really stupid.
I'll just say it. Scott Pilgrim's overrated. All right, number 24. Number 24 is A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
There you go. Yeah, that's a great one.
That's a
Yeah.
good one. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to talk about like, atmosphere, like this is a movie
mm,
where it just really, seeps that. It's fantastic. And one of a discovery I had, I think it was earlier this year, if not maybe late last year, but
you can put Pop
actually,
Tarts in the toaster and you get them warm. Yes, it's a wonderful thing, Tim.
jeez, can't remember the last time I had a Pop Tart.
I mean, I want to take credit for that joke. That was kind of a joke on Ashby's Evil Dead, but
Oh, right.
you opened it up for me, and I couldn't not throw in something stupid.
But no, actually, the Girl Walks Home Alone at Night comic book's actually pretty good. I read 2 issues. I don't know how many there are. I'm assuming not that many, but they're black and white, so they feel like the movie. But yeah, they're pretty cool. But
Yeah, it's got a wonderful atmosphere because partly because it's black and white, partly because of the cinematography, and it's one of those films where the plot's very thin. There's not much to the plot. It's more about how it's shot and what the feeling is as you're going through it. And I think for me, a lot of the best horror is where it's simple, and the effect comes from more the execution than it does. Like sure, there'll be a great idea in the middle. Although to be fair, with this one, I don't even think there's necessarily a good idea in the middle. I mean, it's fine. It's a vampire, and there's there's sort of some villainous characters, and it's straightforward. Sometimes you'll have like a really great idea in the middle of a thing, but then it's about the execution after that. Like I don't know, anything with the concept. Like earlier on the list we had like Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Like the concept is a group of people like work together and fight back against this enemy that kills you in your sleep. Right, there you go. That's your concept. Now it's just about the execution, right?
Yeah, and this is Iranian, I think it was.
Yes, it's an Iranian vampire romance western.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think that's how it was. First described to me when I heard about it, and if that just doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will.
It's oozing style. It's an oozing style type of film. But that's number 24, sorry. Number 23 is An American Werewolf in London.
Okay. I mean, for me, easily the best werewolf movie ever made. I mean, I watch this pretty, fairly often, and everything about it still holds up. And this one also, I wouldn't outright call it a comedy, but it is pretty funny too.
I see a bad moon rising. I would I mean that song's good, but it's not as good as the one from Howling 2. That played like 10 times, if you recall.
Of course.
No, American Werewolf is good. It's one of those things that I always say that there's only 2 good werewolf movies, and I'll take that back a little bit. I've seen some decent ones recently, but it was always this and then Ginger Snaps were the 2 that always spring to mind. When I was like, okay, what's a good werewolf movie? That's your 2 options. And I think I do.
Those are definitely the big like standouts for sure.
Yeah, I do prefer Ginger Snaps over American Werewolf. There's something about it just speaks to me a little bit more. But I do like American Werewolf a lot. I think it is pretty funny. The werewolf effects are really cool. The transformation is obviously very memorable. I like Jenny Agutter who's in it. She's like the sort of nurse love interest. So yeah, and was in the Avengers.
Oh. Okay.
And Winter Soldier, if I remember right. Yeah, she was.
Oh, okay.
She was on the Evil Council, or not the Evil Council. It was just the Council. The Sam Jackson was talking to. Like,
sure. Yeah.
all the shadowy figures. She was the woman. But
okay. Cool.
There you go. I don't know. So there you go. That's number 23. Number 22 is Black Christmas.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of the the first ever slashers.
Yeah, kind of a proto slasher, because I mean many people sort of credit Halloween with kind of like really defining what the formula of a slasher was. But yeah, obviously you had this in like Texas Chainsaw, and even earlier than that, like, to an extent, Psycho, kind of like teeing up what a slasher was, if not quite being there yet. But no, I love it. It's such a grimy little movie, and the villain is so like erratic and foul-mouthed and like visceral, and how he kind of comes off, because of course it's the whole thing where he's calling them and leaving obscene messages, and yes, the calls may be coming from inside the house. I don't think that's much of a spoiler these days, because it's a thing, even though it's not the only movie to do that, of course. This was before When a Stranger Calls, for sure.
Right. Yeah. Which, yeah, I always think of that one more, when you think of the calls coming from inside the house line. But no, yeah, it works for this one too. And yeah, I think we're both big fans of Christmas slashers. This obviously being top of the pile. But no, it still really works, and yeah, there's still like really creepy stuff, and it's definitely cool. Feels like a little sleazy, which but you always kind of want that with a slasher movie.
Plus, you got John Saxon and Margot Kidder in there.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Got some star power. I think what separates us is that there's a lot of other Christmas horror movies that we like because they're goofy or they're fun or they're bloody or they're silly. But this is actually genuinely good.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's why it typically goes to the top of the pile.
Yeah. Although I love Christmas Evil and Silent Night, Deadly Night, but those are,
Although we do have to do Christmas Evil for maybe this year. Actually, we'll do Christmas Evil.
Have we not done it before?
We did it like way back in like the early.
Okay.
This was like that was in the period where we'll redo everything.
Okay.
Because and I think it was like a short, like 25-minute episode. That movie deserves more than 25 minutes. That movie deserves blow by blow account of what happened. Anyway, so that's Black Christmas at number 22. Number 21, Scream.
Okay. Yeah.
Was it?
I don't. It's.
That's a muted response. That was a very okay. Alright.
I mean, Scream's fine. Again, I think it is something where maybe I had maybe a little bit more love for it before going back and revisiting it. I think the first one's still good enough, but honestly, it's not as good as I had remembered. I think, maybe it's just aged a little bit or whatever. But the sequels are, oh boy, those are rough.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's on the high side. I mean, I do think it belongs on a top 50. I don't think it belongs higher than Black Christmas. I'll still say that.
Sure.
Or a lot of the other stuff we had in the first half,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But obviously, I mean, it was kind of the quintessential horror movie of the 90s. Like, that's the first thing that comes to mind. And yeah, the 90s wasn't a great decade for horror. Like, you can compare it to the 80s, you compare it to the 2000s, or even this decade, and like the 90s does kind of stink. Not that there wasn't anything good, but there's definitely a much lower quantity of good stuff for horror movies than any other decades. So that kind of sucks. But Scream obviously was the thing that set a trend, and then we had all these knockoffs that came after. Your I Know What You Did Last Summer's, your Urban Legends, your Valentine, your that late 90s, early 2000s sort of watered down slasher movie. Yeah,
it's like everything is like a mystery and has kind of like snappy teen dialogue and everything, and it works in this movie, but some of the imitators aren't the best. I don't know. I think I just want more. Like when I watch it, I think I just want more of like the meta-ness and like the calling out like of horror tropes and like more of the killer kind of playing with his victims and like asking them questions, and like I really like that setup, and then they don't really come back to it that much. I don't know. It's I think and also like I don't know. I keep thinking about this now after someone kind of pointed it out. Like, but it might have been a little more like interesting back in the day when you're younger and you haven't seen as many movies and know as much and have the internet and stuff. But like when you watch it now, when they're asking like these super basic horror questions that like at the time it was like, oh cool, they're referencing this other movie, but now everything is so kind of pop culture and fixated on stuff that like I feel like the questions I ask are just like, yeah, who wouldn't know that? Or at least like a horror fan or whatever. Or as a horror fan watching it, you're like, it's an easy one.
Yeah, and to be fair, in the scene, it does establish that she is a horror fan. Because they talk about horror movies and stuff. But I guess the thing with that though is that that's just something that we can't change because just times have changed. Like we're all nerds now with internet access who know all these things. Like GIFs are a thing now. GIFs weren't a thing back in Scream's time.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to be too hard on it. Like I don't think it doesn't deserve to be on the list. I don't think it's a bad movie.
Besides, Tim, your favorite actor's in it?
Matthew Lillard.
Yeah, exactly. Got it
okay.
one.
Sure. He's a little much. I did like him in Twin Peaks though.
Oh yeah, he was good to a piece.
And for the record, I will just say because I don't like. I feel like people always say this about it, which I think is very inaccurate. But I do think New Nightmare is a better meta, movie than Scream. So
Also, at the start of this, you said the word meta in this, and that's not a word. Not that I blame you, because I don't think there is kind of a word for what you're going for. But if we're going to make up a word to mean what you were using it for, I want to put forward metativity.
Metativity, okay. Yeah, sure. Why not?
Either that or metalicious, whatever one.
Delicious. Oh, okay, that's not bad.
Tickles your fancy. All right, so that's number.
Metanetic.
There's magnetic, now there's metanetic. Yeah. Number 20 is The Mist.
Ooh, now we're talking.
Yeah.
This is a fantastic movie.
I actually think this deserves to be probably this high, or at least close to it, but I wasn't expecting it to actually get this from the vote, so I'm actually quite pleasantly surprised that The Mist has gotten its due.
I wonder if anyone that voted for it, if they wrote The Mist and then in parentheses put black and white version. That is definitely the superior version.
I definitely didn't notice anyone writing that if they did, but it's funny. I've only seen it in black and white once, because the first time I saw it was just I had no choice, and then I think I got the Blu-ray, which has both versions on it, and I think the first time I watched it again, I watched it in colour. And I think it was when I was showing it to friends, maybe like a year later, that I said, hey, let's watch the black and white version, because I've not done that yet, and it's the director's preferred way. And the funny thing is that do you know, like, I think it's a fine movie in colour. It was great the first time I saw it. But I will say, if nothing else, the black and white certainly makes the CGI tentacles look a lot better.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, so you got your pluses there. It's a great movie though. I think it's a great depressing time, but it's got a lot of those other things that we love about other movies. Like your Night of the Living Dead or whatever. These bottle things where it's these little microcosms of society in one location. In this case, it's like a supermarket, and they're trapped in there because of this mist, and the mist has got creatures in it. This is basically a much better version of The Fog, right? Let's call it what it is. The mist is a better version of The Fog. And yeah, characters developed. It's got a great villain. There's a character that you hate, as the movie goes on. Lot of good star power in here as well. William Sadler's in there in a small role. Well, it's not even that small. It's actually kind of a supporting, so a proper supporting role. Thomas Jane,
fantastic.
Of course.
Thomas Jane, amazing.
And when I went back and watched I think for review, actually, when we did it like maybe 2 years ago, we did The Mist. So actually, I've seen it in black and white a couple of times then, because I'm pretty sure I watched it in black and white for that review as well. We go back, and the angry neighbor is none other than Captain Raymond Holt.
That's right.
From Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And this was the first time I'd watched it since Brooklyn Nine-Nine had started. It'd been a few years, so it was like a big thing. I was like, holy shit, it's Holt! Holt was here all along. God damn it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, he does an amazing job, and
spoiler. Well, you actually spoiled it. I was going to just say the ending is perfect without saying what anything was, but you.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil the ending, which I do agree the ending is great, and what a testament too that even Stephen King himself said, like, yeah, that's probably better than my ending.
Well, that's because Stephen King's endings usually suck.
Not all the time. Sometimes, not all the time. But no, I was just gonna spoil like what happens to Holtz, because I apologize, I forget his actual name in the movie. But I like that his character, like, you just kind of like never find out what happens to him. He just kind of like wanders off into the mist, and like, that's it.
Yeah, you could almost read it like he was right. Like, maybe he survived. Maybe he was right. Yeah. Maybe his attempt worked.
Yeah.
We don't know. Like, there's a bit of ambiguity there, which is nice.
Yeah. No, it's just like, I like when movies have like little stuff like that. Like it's not big enough that you feel cheated out of not knowing something, but it's cool to kind of be like, I wonder what happened there.
Yeah.
Did we? I forget if we did it for the show, but did we review the first episode of the TV show?
Oh, it wasn't for Screams, but we did Yeah, we did review the first episode of the TV show. Yes,
That was the worst TV show I've ever seen.
It was garbage.
So
yeah, it was garbage. You know what, I'll be honest. I forgot that existed until you just said that. I forgot it existed.
That's completely awful. It's on Netflix now, and I'm always like, might this be funny enough to like watch? And then I don't know. So. I haven't done it.
Yeah.
Maybe if I'm like super drunk one night.
Yeah, I wouldn't. No, Mister's great. I love the ending. I love that it's oddly kind of a companion piece to Shawshank Redemption. Shawshank's about hope. The Mist is about losing hope. That's all I'm going to say. So, yeah, Mister's fantastic.
It kind of sucks. Like, I feel like we haven't seen anything from Darabont in a while.
Well, he did the Walking Dead pilot, right? And he ended up getting into a lot of bother with Walking Dead because he's suing them and whatever else. So I think that's maybe been tying him up. Because this is the thing. Walking Dead sucks as a show, but that pilot that he directed is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost sucks. Like, it could have been good if, like, maybe it's just like I don't know if I want to say a one and done, but maybe like just a series of like a couple of movies or something.
Like a trilogy or something. Yeah.
Because I agree that pilot was something else.
Yeah, it's great. I was expecting to love that show based on that pilot, and the next couple episodes were okay, and then season 2 was just like just so dull.
I think I stuck for it for a while. Like I think I remember like in half of season 2, maybe it was like the second half once things kind of started to build up, but. I don't know. I think at some point between the third or fourth seasons, I was just like, I cannot do this anymore. It's so boring, so drawn out. Yeah. Yeah,
and I'll say it. I think Frank Darabont has the distinct honor of having made the 2 best Stephen King adaptations and making a third one, which was. I won't say it's the next one on the list because I think maybe Carrie beats Green Mile, but Green Mile is also really good. So
yeah,
did much magic with his stuff.
He's definitely he I don't know what it is, but he seems to just really get King, and I think some people like really understand it, and then I think it's 2 things. I think he gets King, but he also understands what needs to change for it to work as a movie. He understands what the adaptation needs to be. It makes me think of almost Matthew Vaughn and Jane Goldman, who adapt the Mark Miller stuff for Kick-Ass and Kingsman, because those movies ended up being really good, and I think Mark Miller's a rough character. He's awful.
Yes, as a comic book writer.
His comics are horrible.
Yes,
and but yeah, those movies are. I enjoy Kick-Ass. I really don't like Kingsman, but I mean, I think he definitely did a much better job than the comic for sure.
That's fair. So number 9.
In general, I don't like spy stuff though. So.
Nor do I, but I just like it as a good action movie.
Sure.
It works for me anyway. But anyway, number 19 is another relatively recent one, Insidious.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I have a feeling this will be a divisive pick for some of the audience, because as much as I think we're both on the Insidious is great bandwagon, I feel there is like a negative side to the coin who really don't like Insidious. I've encountered this over the years.
I mean, I think in general, people don't like to, get too excited about, like, big Hollywood. Well, I don't know if it was like that big at the time, but it is kind of like representative of like the bigger Hollywood studio kind of horror movies. And yeah, there are definitely like a lot of like jump scares and CGI in it, but like I think James Wan is one of the few people who can kind of get away with it, because he usually he maybe has a few cheap things here and there, but for the most part I think he can use that stuff pretty effectively versus a lot of people who don't.
I love the mythology it builds. I actually end up really liking some of the characters. I think some of the scares and jumps are actually just really fun. And I saw this blind in 2011 and was just kind of like blown away by how much I liked it. And for me, this is probably still the best Blumhouse movie, unless someone. I mean, obviously, like people will say Get Out, and Get Out is great, but I actually think I kind of like Insidious more. So
maybe it depends. I'd have to sit down and think about it. I mean, it's definitely up there though, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, no, Insidious is great. Number 18 is The Descent.
Ooh, yeah, big fan of this movie.
It's really good. Do you know what's weird about The Descent though? Is I feel like the best stuff in it, like, or not even the best stuff, but just Like, the horror in that movie and the build-up of tension actually is, like, off the charts before you ever actually get to the like the antagonist entity, if you will. That's all I'll say. I don't want to spoil anything.
Sure.
But just the claustrophobia of them being like sort of lost in this cave system, and the way it sort of handles them squeezing through gaps and all that stuff. Like, it's just really good.
Yeah. I mean, I'll never forget that feeling. Like, I saw this in theaters, and I wouldn't say I'm like overly claustrophobic, but like I do definitely, had like not like tight spaces that much, and I've experienced I would say like claustrophobic times, I guess. But I remember when I first saw this, being in this big open theater and them getting to those scenes and like kind of like tensing up because you really are feeling like what the character is feeling, and it is just so well done.
Yeah, no, really, really good. Again, because I wouldn't say I have claustrophobia either, but you feel it in some of those scenes. It's kind of like, I don't have a fear of heights, but I remember seeing not a horror movie obviously, but The Walk with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, where he walks across the World Trade Center, in the high wire. And I remember, like, as soon as he even goes up to the top of that tower and he's looking over the edge, I'm like, why are you not, like, crouched in case you trip or something, you prick? Like, this is terrifying. You're 110 stories up. Stop it. Like, So sometimes movies are just good at kind of, like... Again, I always come back to, that's not a fear of heights. That's just a normal fear because it's that goddamn high that it doesn't matter if you've got a fear of heights. If you fall from that height, you're splat on the pavement. Yeah. And it'll take enough time that you'll experience the fall. It's not going to be so quick that you don't experience it. You're going to there's enough time in that fall to know you're dying. Like, you're going to be aware of it. You'll probably pass out before you even land, to be honest.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Anyway, so this is number 18. It's a shame that Neil Marshall, the director's, never really quite gotten close to this again.
Yeah, I always, want him to have like another big hit. Like, I do like Dog Soldiers, but I definitely don't think it's near, the level of this.
I remember seeing Doomsday and Centurion in theaters. Like, that was like his next two films, because I really liked The Descent, and they were both okay. Like, neither one was, memorable or great. Like, so yeah, it's kind of a shame that he's not really. I don't know. That's it. I've not seen everything he's done since then, but I did see his next couple in theaters because I was hoping they'd be as good as Descent, and they weren't. Anyway, number 17 is, we're finally going to something a bit older here, The Birds.
The Birds?
Yeah, The Birds.
Okay.
Not Birdemic. Don't mistake me.
Yeah, I want to make sure you weren't saying The Burbs.
Oh, right. Well, The Burbs is fantastic. If they wanted to put The Burbs on this list, I'd have supported it 110%. But The Birds, Alfred Hitchcock, Tippi Hedren, Killer Birds, the inspiration for a classic of our time, which is Birdemic, Shock and Terror.
Yeah, I saw this once a long time ago. I really don't remember too much about it, obviously other than birds attacking. So, I remember liking it, but I don't really have too much to say, but that's cool.
That's right. No, it's really solid. There's a few really great set pieces in this. I do think this is maybe a bit high for The Birds. I do like it quite a bit, but it's not like, I don't think it's must-see horror. I feel like because it's a Hitchcock movie, it automatically gets this extra like sort of level of prestige on it. And obviously, there's a reason why he has that prestige, because some of his films are that good and do deserve to be up high on lists like this. I think The Birds is just a really solid Hitchcock movie, though. So, but I mean, it's good. I mean, I don't have a bad word to say about it. It's just not, the 10 out of 10 that maybe another film that he does that might be on this list later is. But that's number 17. Number 16, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is, I don't even know what to say about this. This is high for me. I love the weird dream stuff that's in here. I like anything to do with dreams. Dreams is such a weird, place that we go to every night that I feel like people don't always talk about, and I think it's just like a perfect vehicle for, a horror movie villain. And I mean, I think it still holds up really well. I probably watch it, about once a year around this time, and I'm still always very, impressed by it.
Do 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 do. It's my rendition.
Very good.
I like Nightmare on Elm Street a lot. I mean I have put on the record as thinking part 3 is the best one in the series, but Nightmare 1 is definitely number 2 on my list of the series, and is obviously a very well made film. It's a very inventive idea, and again it comes back to having a simple idea of a guy who can kill you in your dreams. And Wes Craven sat there and said, okay, what can I do with this? How can I make this work? How do I have the character fighting back? Like, how does this progress? And sometimes just having that spark of an idea, that from that idea kind of creates mechanics of how the movie can work. And by that I mean, okay, there's rules. So the rules are you fall asleep, you can show up in your dream. But then as you go through the movie, you learn some new rules, like, oh, if she's holding on to something in the dream, it'll come back with her, kind of thing, or stuff like that. But you have characters who are trying to not fall asleep, but try to stay awake, which adds this level of stress of trying to like keep their eyes open after 48 hours, or all these different things. Like, I like the way it progresses, and it's got a little bit of that pissing contest between Craven and Raimi, because Evil Dead's on the TV at one point, which is something that Raimi returned once or twice himself. I think it was like a Last House on the Left poster in like the first Evil Dead or something like that. Like, yeah,
and then and was it the first Evil Dead or the second one where they have like Freddy's glove on somewhere in the cabin?
Has to be the second, because the first Evil Dead was out way before this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I went to, they were doing an exhibit here, an Evil Dead exhibit, and they had all these props from all the movies. And it was funny, like one of the props was like Freddy's glove, which is just, it's funny because it's like, oh, hey, here's a prop from Evil Dead. It's, another horror icon.
Yeah, you want to like say, hey, curator, I think you're confused. Yeah. This doesn't belong with this set.
But no, I mean, I absolutely love this movie, and I'm really, really holding out hope that they got like one more good one in here. Like, obviously, the reboot was awful, and they pretty much shied away from that. But I mean, especially nowadays, where everything seems to come back eventually, or in some form or another.
Robin Robert Englund's get one last trip in the tank.
Yes, I really, really hope. I'd love to see it.
Number 15 is Let the Right One In.
Ooh, another good one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, if there's anything that isn't at least great,
that's true.
Then they're a bunch of idiots who have voted for the wrong things.
Well, it's just weird to kind of juxtapose it to. We did one countdown where, like, it was all the bad stuff, so it was kind of like, all right, I'm expecting bad movies to come. Now that we're doing the one that's all the good stuff, it's like it's just a weird change in my mind.
No, Leatherhead One is one of the best vampire movies ever made. It's a beautiful film. It's touching. It's got this dark romance to it that you genuinely get attached to and kind of root for, even though you know it's kind of like ruining someone's life by it happening. Yeah. And you get great kid performances from the two actors. Great atmosphere. The snowy setting really adds a lot to it. This is. I can't say enough nice things about Let the Right One In.
Yeah, it's just really, really haunting and beautiful. I read the book earlier. I think it was this year. Time just blurs together. It might have been last year, but it was somewhat recently. But the book was really good. And I think like one of the things that sticks out to me when I think about this movie, just the kind of the placement of like a lot of things. Like I always liked when there'd be stuff kind of going on in the background that maybe you might not like catch right away at first, but it just makes it feel like really real and like lived in versus some movies where it's like, oh, the action's over here, we got to do like close up and show this and that, and it just feels very much like you're just kind of like watching what's going on in here, which was really cool.
Yeah, the direction is really, really, very confident and very methodical in what it's doing. Also, I just love that the setting's so different from most other movies, partly because it's a foreign film, but you could totally have the sort of setting I'm talking about, though. Just the idea that this isn't some big house the kid lives in. It's it's a really sort of dumpy apartment block, with a bunch of working class people. Like it's a really nice setting that feels unique to, I'd say, vampire movies, for sure. So no, Let Everyone is fantastic. If you've not seen it, And you know, if you're one of these people who doesn't like subtitles, then suck it up. Read the subtitles because the movie's worth it. And yes, it's better than the American remake, even though Matt Reeves did a pretty good job with the remake. Ultimately, Let the Right One In is the one to see. It still is.
Yeah, it's like it's probably about as good as you can do, you know, like for an American remake of a really good foreign film. But yeah, if you have the choice, definitely watch the original.
Yep. Number 14 is Poltergeist.
Oh, okay, this is a really fun one.
Yeah, this is a bit high. I think this is a bit high for Poltergeist. I don't think Poltergeist belongs on a top 50.
I wouldn't argue it. I'd probably argue it being this high, but I wouldn't necessarily say not having it on the list. Like I don't know. Like when I think of it, it does feel like kind of, you know, like maybe, I don't know, like a little more fun, even though, you know, it is still definitely like a horror movie, like for sure. But I don't know, it does feel like a little more family-ish, which obviously, you know, it's a, you know, family-focused kind of film. But
well, there's the whole, you know, dispute about who directed more of it.
Right.
Did Spielberg come in to make it more of a family-friendly movie kind of thing? There's a whole controversy that I'm not even going to start to really get into. But I don't know. Poltergeist is a fine movie. I've never really been attached to it all that much. Like, it's just one that I've seen a few times over the years, and I never really found myself all that. I don't know. I don't know. It's fine.
I don't know. I think it has a lot of really good, memorable moments in it, though. Like like a lot of the kind of horrific elements that happen, I think are like pretty memorable, and you know, like there's like some like pretty good lines and stuff in it. So I don't know. I don't have a problem at all with this pick. It's, again, it's not like my favorite movie of all time, but I think it is really dang good.
Yeah, I wouldn't have it on the list. So the fact that it's at number 14 above Let the Right One In and like The Mist and Black Christmas, I'm like, piss it off.
Yeah, well, I would say that is pretty high, but yeah.
Yeah, come on. You know it to be true. You know it to be true in your heart, Tim. Number 13, now this is more like it. Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah. I mean, this...
Original, obviously.
Of course. Some people really do like the Zack Snyder one, which, like, I don't know. I mean, it's probably my favorite Zack Snyder movie, but I rewatched it recently. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
Great.
I mean, it's probably also my favorite Zack Snyder movie, but that bar is low.
Yeah, it's not saying much, but I mean, this original though is, man, it's so good. Yeah, I mean, I think it's got to be my favorite zombie movie.
It's my favorite zombie movie.
Yeah, it's like I love all the Romero ones. I do think this is probably the most fun. I feel like I do really like Night and Day a lot. They are definitely like a little heavier. Like I think this one still has like, you know, heavy moments, but it can also be like pretty fun at times, and you know, like the gore is good, and it's just a great idea, you know. Like I feel like at this point we've exhausted every, you know, all right, zombie movie, but it takes place here, mm-hmm. And like but I mean, at the time it was like, oh cool, like we're doing this zombie thing again, but like at a mall, like just like that idea. So there's so much you can do with that.
Yeah, so much variety. There's so many places in a mall to go, so many different things, and obviously there's a lot of social commentary. Part of what makes the Romero Dead movies so good is that they actually do have something to say. All three of them do, although I think Days gets a little bit more muddled because the movie wasn't exactly what it was meant to be in the first place, whereas Night and Dawn, I think, you know, the messaging is there, and it's I think our discussions of those two movies back when we did them, because we decided to do them because when Romero passed away we hadn't done them yet, and I was like, well, let's do them, let's celebrate, or not celebrate, you know what I mean, like celebrate his life by doing them. So no, Dawn's my favourite. I like the characters. You really get to come to care about them. They become this kind of little family. Again, it's like a little microcosm, but it has so much to say. And there is just this fun element of them like clearing out the mall and then sort of setting up shop and like, let's live here. Let's live in this commercial, like, utopia. So good, yeah. And yeah, sure, the fake blood looks like the wrong color now. I mean, yes, that's aged a little bit, but I don't think it matters. Not when you really get into the story, the characters and
Yeah,
everything that happens. Plus, come on, that helicopter, like, kill.
great scene.
Wonderful, wonderful. Number 12. It Follows.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
You-
baby.
Okay. Well, I couldn't tell if you're excited it's on the list or mad that it's too low.
I can't be mad at number 12. Number 12
Okay.
is pretty high. I am pleased that this film does seem to have gained some following, no pun intended, beyond myself, because I love this movie. I think it's one of the best horror movies of the last 20, 30 years. I think it belongs high up in every best of list. It's
No, it's definitely terrific. I do feel like it is starting to get a little bit of a blowback though, because I feel like I don't know, maybe a lot of people really liked it, but I think maybe it was more of a culty thing, and you know how those kind of movies usually will kind of end up getting to a point where they start kind of having a backlash and like you know you get the people like it's not that good, but I don't know. It really is cool. It has like you know a great direction to it and like a really cool, unique, simple idea that is played out very effectively.
with
It's
rules. It has rules, Tim.
yeah, exactly. It's yeah, I think it's like endlessly rewatchable too. This is one that I think is still super fun to you know throw on like
And
anytime.
not only is it suspenseful, not only does it have the rules, it has characters who are proactive and try to once they understand what the rules are, try to use those rules to their benefit and try to fight back. It's got everything I want in a horror movie in many ways. So yeah, so if you wrote this off as it's a sexually transmitted ghost movie, like many did when the premise and the trailer sort of came out, no, and the music's fantastic as well. I'll throw that in as well. Number 11 is Evil Dead 2.
Ooh, too low for me. That's got to be higher up there. But no, I mean I've gone on record before saying it's my favorite movie of all time. Not even favorite horror movie, but it's got to be my favorite movie. Just I mean, what else do you want in there? It's got you know great horror, great comedy. Bruce Campbell is just so charismatic, and you know the gore, the story, everything about it just like you know fires on all cylinders for me. It's just really this is like the kind of movie I just want to watch again and again and again.
I like Evil Dead 2 a lot. I don't love it as much as you do, but it is very good. And Bruce Campbell's great in it. And it's very fun and wacky and all those things. I think, you know, it's... I don't remember where I put it in my top 100 when we did that a couple of years ago, but it was probably in the 20s, you know, so... You know, I'm not mad at it. I love it. It's fine. I'm okay with it here. I think it feels okay. Feels okay. Number 10 is Night of the Living Dead.
Ooh, nice. Okay. So people like that a little bit more than Dawn.
Seemingly, yeah. I was a little bit surprised at that myself. But I mean, I can't really fault it too much because Night is fantastic. Like, Night is a 10.
Sure.
Like, you know, Night is...
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's beautifully shot for such a low budget, black and white, all the social commentary in there, having the black lead character, like, conflict with you know, the stubborn, like, middle-class, you know, white guy, and all the sort of shocking turns it takes. You know, I can't imagine how shocking this movie must have felt to watch in 1968.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And again, just a great example of like, you know, someone just having a really simple idea and going out and doing it. Like I imagine this must have been pretty cheap, you know, to make, but you know, it's just everything is used so effectively. And, you know, it really is incredible. Like, obviously we have so much zombie stuff now, but like before this movie, like zombies weren't a thing. Like, yes, the word existed, but it was like completely different.
Voodoo zombies and things like that.
Yeah, but like it was not what we thought of when we think of zombies now. So like the fact that you know George Romero in this movie basically you know created what is now probably
this would be like if another movie invented the vampire.
exactly, yeah. Like
right?
zombies are
Which,
right up there. You know?
yeah, and obviously it didn't. I mean, Dracula the book, I guess, kind of, but at the same time, I'm sure people will probably point out that there's kind of vampires before. But Dracula, much like Night of the Living Dead did for zombies, Dracula made what we think of a vampire is.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so I don't know who invented werewolves, but yes, people can go find that themselves. Do a bit of research. Now, Night of the Living Dead is an absolute bona fide classic, and it holds up wonderfully. Whenever I see it, if anything, I like it every time I see it. It's just it's so
nice,
full.
Yeah, there's a nice Criterion Blu-ray out for it now.
So that is Night of the Living Dead. Yeah, we're in the top 10, by the way. I should have made more of a big deal about that. I was like, ooh, top 10. Number 9. And that's why it's surprisingly a little bit high. And I'm not necessarily mad, but The Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's another like new-ish. I mean, I guess it's like old now, but it still kind of feels new. But
no, I mean, I think anything post 2000 I would consider as newish. But yeah, Cabin in the Woods is I mean, I think we were talking about Scream earlier. I think Cabin in the Woods is the better version of Scream.
Oh, sure.
And what it does. And yes, I am a Joss Whedon fan, who of course created the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So I have a bit of bias, but I think Drew Goddard's direction is really good. I think the way it plays with genre tropes is very fun. Like, I think, I never want to really spoil this movie for anyone because it just goes places, but I will say, like, what this movie becomes in its third act versus what it was at the start of the movie is insane. And I had just a big. I remember seeing it in the theater in 2012 and just having this big grin across my face. Like, once they went underneath, I'll just say.
Yeah, like what, and like it was shelved for a while. Like I forget if it was maybe like a year or a couple of years or something, but I remember hearing about it, like not like specific story beats or whatever, but just basically hearing the fact that Joss Whedon like has this new horror movie out, and like I remember being like, like that's awesome. Why is someone not putting this out right away? And then when I finally get to see it in theaters, it was just like, having a grin on your face, like from start to finish.
Do you know what's so weird is that normally when something's shelved for like a couple of years, it's because it's not very good and they just want to put it out quietly at some point. But this movie was great. Like, I was like, why did you keep this from us for 2 years? And I feel like the only reason why it got released is because Chris Hemsworth's in it and like Avengers was about to come out, and I was like, hey, we can capitalize off this because we got Hemsworth. And that was basically it. So
yeah, and this like is one of those movies that like is like I am happy to watch as a horror fan. Like, sometimes I feel like stuff that's trying to play off horror tropes or be kind of meta, satirical or whatever, like sometimes it feels like it doesn't really have much love for the genre. Like, they're kind of making fun of it, or you're kind of rolling your eyes at it. But this is like, just something like everything about it as a horror fan, you're like, yes, like they're nailing this, or like, this is like, super funny.
Do you know what the thing is that it is super critical of the horror genre and what it is at that point in time. But it's not saying we should stop horror movies. It's saying let's do new things. Let's do new horror.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's not repeat the same old ideas that everyone's been doing ad nauseum. And it is a very original film. The Jenkins and what's his face? Those control room characters are so funny. Like, this movie, like, I guess it is a horror comedy, even though I don't necessarily think of it that way, but it is so funny. Like, the scenes earlier on when they're talking to the their version of what's the character's name from Ralph, Crazy Ralph from Friday the 13th.
Right.
They've got they're talking to him on the answer, the speakerphone. Like, that scene, like was breaking me apart in the theaters because it was just so goddamn funny. I fully root for Cabin in the Woods. Maybe it's a little high given some of the classics that it's topping, but like, I love it.
I mean, who knows though? Like, I mean, it's obviously standing the test of time, and I feel like sometimes just because something does feel newer or whatever, you're more hesitant to put it above the other ones. But I don't know. I think it is definitely worthy to be pretty high up there, and it really does feel like hitting a lot of the best beats from Buffy. That like oh, the reason why I like this show is because of like they're kind of capitalizing on those same kind of moments there, where it is like the the characters and the jokes and stuff, like along with having like legitimately good like horror moments and everything, and like subverting expectations of things. It's really good.
Yeah. Number 8 is Jaws.
Okay, this is a very high movie for me. One of my favorites. Again, it's one of those ones where, I understand like some people, like to argue about whether it's a horror movie or not, and I don't know. I think there is definitely a debate to be made about that, but I don't know, because I guess when you watch it, it doesn't really feel like a horror movie, but everything about it on paper does say, that it is. But I mean, just as a movie, though, it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't fault the movie. The movie's fantastic. It's possibly Spielberg's best movie. I think there's an argument for me between that and Jurassic Park. But
sure.
Admittedly, I never count this as a horror movie. I never like put it on a horror list. I never put it in the horror section on my shelves. It's in the whatever section, but like it's not in the horror shelves. Like, and I don't know why. It's just a feeling.
Yeah, I think
just a feeling.
Yeah, it's really hard to say. Like again, I wouldn't argue for someone that does feel that same way. And honestly, it is like one of my favorite movies. Like I would probably put it in a top 5, favorite movies of all time for me easily. But yeah, if I'm doing a horror list, I don't automatically think about it. But I mean, again, like everything about it on paper is like, yeah, that's horror. There is a creature that is like killing people, and it's up to these like group of people to try to save everyone, and like it's very specific horror elements. But yeah, for some reason when you watch it, I don't know, it doesn't really feel that way.
It feels more like an adventure thriller to me, I guess. Like I don't know.
I guess maybe that's like just a Spielberg touch, or like whatever he does, just kind of. Yeah,
feels like a Spielberg movie. I don't know. That's the best I can say. But no, Jaws is great. I mean, I fault it though. And you guys have voted for it. You have declared it's a horror movie, and that's okay. I will accept that. But yeah, obviously I'm not going to fault the movie itself. Though the movie's still fantastic. It's Jaws, from Spielberg's golden era. So number 7 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Very good choice. I'm surprised it's a little high. I feel like maybe, like I don't get me wrong. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. But yeah, I feel like maybe people like some of the other franchise stuff a little more usually. So it's a little surprising. Although I wouldn't say undeserved.
Yeah, I mean it's a touch high for me, but it is important to the horror genre, and I can't really fault it as a pick. It does have a very unique. Yeah. It's got that tone and atmosphere that Rob Zombie's been chasing for decades now at this point. But it's a very effective film. I can't fault it, and I can't help but cheer when Franklin gets killed. So
yeah, and again, I just love the idea of like, a couple of kids at the time, like these young people just went out and kind of made this movie. Like again, it's. I have no idea what the budget was, but it had to be like super low. Like
it's micro. Because if I remember correctly, they were shooting this at weekends. They all had like day jobs during the week, and then they were shooting the movie at the weekends, which is insane. Like how much drive and ambition you have that energy for the months and months and months that it took to eventually finish this movie. But I mean, hey,
I had such like a hard time getting some of my friends to like go to the movies, but like to actually like get friends to like, make a movie with you. It's like that's commitment.
Yeah. Oh, and I've tried in the past. I've tried. So no, Texas is a great movie, and it's obviously a part of the Mount Rushmore of like horror kind of icons, and it deserves to be very highly represented here. But a bit high for my taste, but it's not like I wouldn't put it like that low. Like it's just it's one of those coveted spots in the top 10.
Fantastic title too.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's a great title. And basically gave birth to like an entire subgenre of movies that have the word massacre in the titles.
Also, I wonder if it was one of like the first horror movies to use a chainsaw in it? 'Cause it's I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, it is like one of like the coolest like weapons now, though. I feel like
I
obviously
mean,
like
to use a chainsaw as a weapon, sure, but like just having a chainsaw on the screen because someone's
oh
using
sure.
a
I
chainsaw,
mean,
yeah,
well yeah, that's what I meant. Not
yeah.
not just have it on screen, but
This isn't like Psycho where there was no toilet seats in cinema until Psycho.
maybe I don't know. But yeah, I love any horror movie that busts out a chainsaw though.
Mm. Number 6 is The Exorcist.
Sorry, I had to cough. No, I'm a big fan of The Exorcist. This was like one of the movies like growing up that like I feel like even adults were afraid of. Like but when you're like still really young and just getting into it and like you haven't seen much yet, and like people would be like, oh yeah, that movie's cool, that movie's fun. And then they'll be like, oh, like The Exorcist. You'd kind of talk about it in hushed tones, and and then everyone would always be like, oh, it's based on a true story, and like a woman died when she was watching in the theaters and stuff. And yeah, I mean it's obviously that stuff might seem a little silly now, but like it's still a super effective movie when you watch it.
Yeah, no, it's really well made. It's very effective. And I remember that too. I remember there being this kind of aura around it where I don't know if like hardcore horror fans maybe were like that, but I think for the adults around you who weren't horror fans as a kid, like they would speak about The Exorcist like it was this like forbidden thing, like they were all too scared to watch it. It had this thing, and I don't know if that maybe almost sets like our generation up for disappointment because we go to watch it, especially if it's not like one of the first things we watch as a horror fan. We're like, this is fine. What are you talking about? There's nothing that it's not that intense. Calm down.
I think there's like a whole religious factor too, which because I think like I don't know, like. Not to make any like judgments against people who are religious or who aren't or whatever, but I think in general maybe more people are less religious than they were back in the day. And I feel like maybe like this generation was one of kind of the last ones that, or at least like the area I grew up in and kind of grew up in, kind of felt like the last like yeah, we're not really doing this kind of stuff that much anymore. But I had like friends who like we're Catholic though, and it seemed like, oh, if you're a Catholic, like this movie is like, holy shit, watch out.
If you're a Catholic, you're basically the episode of Father Ted with the picket signs, down with this sort of thing. Have you seen Father Ted? Is that a reference that's lost on you?
I've only seen a couple of episodes.
Okay.
It's one of those ones I have always wanted to watch. I just never got around to it. I do like my my British sitcoms. So.
It's like maybe 20-something episodes, the whole thing. It's not like a long thing. But there's an episode where the church gives them a task to go and protest this arty film that's been released. It's got nudity in it. And they just have a sign saying, down with this sort of thing. And then they get bored and go in and watch the film and see what it's like.
That sounds pretty good.
And the bishop gets really mad at them for it. I do love Father Ted. But yeah, I guess this is really good. I don't hold it on the pedestal of that a lot of people do though. The fact that it's appearing at number 6 here, that it's this high, there is definitely this reverence for The Exorcist as a film, and I think that it's a really solid movie. I think it does deserve to be in the top 50, absolutely. I don't think it's like top 20 material though, and that's just a personal thing. But I
mean, say what you will about the movie, but I think Tubular Bells gets like a top 10 spot alone.
Oh yeah, but that's Mike Oldfield. That's that ain't the movie, baby. That's Mike Oldfield just making a good track. But yeah, that elevates the movie. Absolutely. I probably gets a full extra point just for Tubular Bells. So that's number 6. And number 5 is Psycho. And we just reviewed this at the start of the month, so you can go check our hour-long or whatever it was thoughts on Psycho. Obviously, it's a classic, it's a masterpiece, it's a dawn of a new era in horror films. For someone like Hitchcock, who typically made thrillers, not horror movies, this was like, oh shit, like he just made a horror movie that's violent and brutal, and for the time, very shocking, and kind of changed the face of what horror cinema could be. So, definitely deserves to be represented, and the fact that I think it basically holds up almost completely 60 years later is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, definitely a lot of memorable parts in here. Anthony Perkins is, really great as Norman Bates. I recently read the book, and the book was pretty good. It's, not too different from the movie.
You'd have had some trouble at the time because Hitchcock sent out his assistants to buy all the copies, so no one would know. No one would know what the ending was.
Yeah, I think there's like a lot of really cool stuff like that. Like it, I'm sure something else would have come along and done this anyway. But this was kind of the first movie that was changing stuff, like in regards to, like when you go see the movie, you have to go like as it starts. There's a whole thing where you couldn't just come in like halfway through, and so it's kind of interesting, like the kind of like weird stuff like that in regards to like spoiler culture and stuff nowadays.
Maybe one of the most prolific like sort of twist endings, maybe. Not that twist endings didn't exist before. I'm sure they did, because twist endings aren't exactly. I mean, they're kind of a staple of storytelling, but. I feel like in terms of major... I
didn't see that moon getting hit in the eye with a rocket. That was a surprise.
A trip to the moon. I've seen that. I've seen that short film, Tim, believe it or not. From like 1910 or whatever it is.
Yeah, what, do you see it for like your 10th birthday or something?
No. I actually sought it out because the Martin Scorsese film Hugo made me very interested in the director, so I actually made a point of going to check it. It's also, I think this is the first entry in my my Bible, and by Bible I mean the 1001 movies to see before you die.
Okay.
Because they're in chronological order, and that's the first entry. So, neat. Plus it's like 10 minutes long, so I got to like tick off a movie in that list for 10 minutes sake. Easy peasy.
Well, we won't speak of that horrible man Martin Scorsese and his bad views about movies and Marvel movies and whatnot.
So it's funny, I was recording with Tara last night, and we actually ended up, it's going to be a bonus bit on Patreon, because we went for like 25 minutes talking about Martin Scorsese and Marvel movies. And so I just wanted to mention that happened.
Spoiler alert, he's right. I love the Marvel movies, but come on, let's
Thank you. Thank you. I don't even like all Martin Scorsese films. I'm so hit and miss with them. Yeah. But you know what? And don't get me wrong, I don't agree with the sentence that they're not cinema. I guess I agree with that exact phrasing. But there's a distinction. There's Marvel fast food movies, and then there's,
Yeah. Like it's just the whole like. I don't know, people like legitimately getting upset about is just like the dumbest thing. Like in general, like I don't understand why people feel the need to like stand up for like billion-dollar corporations.
I know, it's so weird.
Yeah.
And to be fair,
this movie does not care about you. Don't spend time defending it.
It's not just specifically the Marvel movies. I mean, everyone's using that as the phrase because they're the biggest things now. But like, I'm including other big blockbusters that are getting churned out in this. I'm including the DC movies. I'm including Star Wars now. The original Star Wars trilogy, not so much, because those were the original idea. It was like fresh and it was all these things. But Star Wars now, it's like, no, we need to make a new Star Wars movie because we want to make money. Like, so there's a very corporate kind of incentive behind the whole thing.
It is weird. Like I do constantly kind of feel like stuck in a weird place, because on the one hand, like, yeah, I do, as a nerd, I am excited to see all the things that I love are still around. Like, as much as it might be diminishing returns, it's still cool to go see a Marvel movie, a Star Wars movie, or whatever. But at the same time, it does kind of feel like, yeah, all this stuff is just starting to be the same. It's like there's not much like.
Could you imagine being around in the 70s and like early 80s when all these things were being introduced for the first time?
Oh yeah.
Where's all these introductions of new things that we can get excited about? Damn it.
Yeah. Like I don't know, what do we have? Like I do like John Wick. Like it's not that's my favorite thing in the world, but at least it is an original thing.
It's a solid example of like a new thing that just started. It's having some I don't mind it having sequels, but you've got that, and
But what is something that would be like an original thing that's like, oh, like this is like a franchise now, like because even stuff like like It Follows or Get Out, which are great horror movies, but they're kind of like one and done stuff,
Sure,
like
which is fine. Things can be one and done. I don't need
oh, of
sequels to
course, yeah,
things,
yeah,
but I don't know. I guess Fast and the Furious kind of counts, even though it was
yeah,
terrible. Like I hated that first movie, but like it has become something.
yeah.
So can't fault that, I suppose. Yeah, yeah. What else is, since 2010, say, has started that's not based on a comic book thing?
Yeah. I don't know, like I'm sure there's probably a lot of examples you can think of, but even if you do think of like four or five, it's not much compared to like, the 80 that are just like, either that we get every year. It's just like either based off a comic or a remake of an older movie or, like a sequel to a franchise or something.
Yeah. I don't think it's all adaptation. I think being based in a book's completely fine and feels
Sure.
fresh enough. I think the reason why I think comic books kind of fall into this is because a lot of them are falling under the same universe. All the Marvel movies are connected and they all feel part of the same machine. DC, to an extent, has that as well, but not exactly the same. I don't think people bring that up when we're talking about like Kick-Ass or we're talking about like non-superhero movies that are based on comic books. No one's bringing up, oh, it's based on a comic book. No one cares because it just feels like a story that's based on something. It doesn't really matter. I don't think people when the Paper Girls TV show starts goes, oh, it's based on a comic, it feels just like a Marvel movie. No, it doesn't. It's going to be whatever it is.
Sure.
Maybe good, maybe bad, but it'll be its own little thing based on one story. Anyway, that's not tangent. Anyway, so Psycho.
So close to the end.
Psycho's number 5 and was as a classic, fantastic. Number 4 is The Thing.
Ooh, I just rewatched this the other day, and yeah, what a masterpiece. Honestly, I mean, what else can you say about it other than how stupid were people when this came out? And because I don't know how long it took for people to realize it was a thing, but yeah, like it was a huge flop when it first came out, and I don't know if it's just like recently in our lifetime people started liking it, but it's crazy to think that there was a time when it was not well regarded.
I think it probably always had a cult following when it came out, and then I think it's maybe certainly by the time movies were getting released in DVD, it was considered a classic. So I'd say by 2000 it definitely was. I don't know where. Maybe it was just gradual over that like 18 years, maybe. But yeah, I think I've always heard that part of the reason why it maybe flopped is because that was the summer of E.T. and everyone cared about E.T. and it was this friendly alien and no one wanted to see the dark like horror movie version of an alien attacking people. And I like E.T., but The Thing's better. I'll say it.
Oh yeah, of course.
I'll stand on that. The Thing's a fantastic movie. Talk about a great setting, great atmosphere. Maybe the best film about paranoia ever made. This like is this person the Thing or aren't they? Can we trust this person? Kurt Russell in there, of course, Keith David. So you got some star power. Nice amount of mystery, which of course the prequel tried to completely take away, but let's just ignore that and pretend it never happened. And funny thing is we've not done The Thing.
Well, you and Matt did it, right?
No, me and Carr did it a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
I think the argument is that I can maybe on a vote maybe or something like that, but I think it's something we will probably do in streams at some point. It feels weird that we haven't. And I think as much as I happily put it in the sci-fi shelf maybe, I feel like I probably think it's more of a Streams episode than an Ace episode.
Sure.
Or are you going to argue with me because it's an alien?
No. No, I mean, I'm not going to argue when it's something I want to watch. So, but I mean, again, though, it's fantastic. I mean, what else do you need to say about it? It's Carpenter at his best. It looks great. The music's awesome. The special effects are like some of the best. Mm-hmm. It's still just really cool and fun to watch.
And funnily enough, number 3 is Halloween.
Wait. Oh, okay. Oh. Oh no, I was gonna guess. I think I have guesses for what the last 2 are, but okay.
Yeah, Halloween is number 3. Obviously I'd put it at number 1 because it's the best horror movie ever made. But Carpenter getting both number 3 and 4 on this list is obviously a huge achievement, and he should be very proud of himself. Halloween is the quintessential slasher film. It is what created the idea of the slasher, And I think The Shape is a phenomenal villain, my favorite horror movie villain. I think it's shot wonderfully. The music is iconic and adds so much to that movie. I have nary a negative word to say on it.
Yeah, no, it still really holds up. It's fantastic. It's really simple idea that for some reason people can't seem to grasp when they try to make, new movies, but whatever. It still really holds up. Yeah, everything about it is just fantastic. And I'm not even as big of a slasher guy as you, but I, still gotta admit that this is, like one of the best horror movies ever made.
Was that the boogeyman? As a matter of fact, it was. Number 2.
Oh wait, so
okay.
I think there's 2 big movies that I don't think have been mentioned yet. So
I don't know if
I'm
I
gonna
want you.
guess-
I don't know if I want you to guess them though.
Okay.
Because if you're right, it's just going to be like, oh, here's the 2 obvious picks, and
Okay. All right. Well, you can say it. I'll say if
I'll
I'm
just
right.
trust you afterwards if you tell me that
Okay.
each one was one that you thought. Okay, I'll just trust
Okay.
you. Number 2 is The Shining.
Okay. All right. So I was gonna guess that was number 1, but
Okay, all right.
all right. So we'll see then if my number 2 guess
Yeah.
is number 1 then. But yeah, I cannot argue with this at all. This is I think when we did our personal list, I think I might have had The Shining at like 2 or 3. I forget, but I think I had it pretty high, maybe even 4. But
It was in
I had
my
a pretty.
it was in my top 10 for sure. I don't think I had it quite up at like the top 3, but it was in my top 10.
But I mean, actually, I feel similar to like Halloween and The Thing and stuff. Like, it's kind of hard to talk about this movie because it's like a masterpiece. It's like, what do you say about it when like everything, honestly, is just perfect. It works so well. I don't know.
Tim says a few days before we record a review of The Shining,
Yeah.
he's an episode of Screams.
Yeah, I mean, look out for that. But heads up, it's probably going to be a boring episode because it's just going to be like, oh
Don't
yeah, that
say
part's
that.
cool.
It's our big
That part's
episode for
cool.
Halloween. It's the October 31st episode. No, The Shining discussion will be fantastic.
No, the big episode for Halloween
Oh,
is
no.
going to be Leprechaun 3.
That's right, 2 episodes on Halloween because Tim made a wager on the last list and it turned out to be, well, I don't know if correct's the right word, but you know what I mean, like, it happened.
And well, there's still a chance for it to be 3 episodes if number 1 is a certain film. But no, it's and I do feel a little conflicted about this movie because I'm a big Stephen King fan, but he hates it, and it is very different from the book, and I understand the reasons why he hates it, but it's hard to complain because this movie is really so damn good.
It's just his own great thing. Like, just forget that
Yeah.
it's based on a Stephen King book. It's just
The book is still enjoyable. You can read it and enjoy it on its own, but yeah.
this is a masterclass in direction and mood. Like the eerie feeling of all the empty space and just like this empty building and just the stir crazy kind of thing that it does, and the performance from Jack Nicholson, it's just everything about it is just, it's great.
Totally.
What's interesting actually is I've not really thought about this, but maybe I should try and watch the US cut for when we review it because I've never seen
Okay.
it. Because if you don't know us about The Shining, there's 2 cuts. Kubrick, after the US release, decided to do like a sort of director's cut for Europe, which was actually shorter because he cut out some of the fluff. And I don't want to like this is kind of, I'm paraphrasing what he said at the time, but he basically trusted that Europeans didn't need as much explanation for some things.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like 20 minutes shorter the version that I've always seen. So I'm really curious to see if the pacing feels off if I watch the longer cut. If I'm going to be like, oh, this is too long and weird. What is this shit?
I'm not sure what version I watch. I'm assuming it's probably the US version.
It is the
'cause I
US
just
cut.
have the Blu-ray, so
That's the weird thing about it is that even after all this time, whenever they release like the Blu-rays, Warner Brothers is like they always put the US cut out in the US and the Europe cut out in Europe. They never like just give you, because a lot of movies will say, here, pick your cut. Or,
Yeah,
they'll
yeah,
give you
the
both.
option.
Yeah.
yeah.
And they've never done that. They've just always just adhered to what it was.
It's insane that like there's no like Criterion edition or something of this, like,
I think Warner Bros. Are putting out the 4K Blu-ray because Doctor Sleep's coming out, which is why we're doing it, of course, as well.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. Yeah, because the long cut's like 2 hours 20 minutes, whereas the one I've seen has always been like about 2 hours. So.
And I always keep forgetting to plug this, but if anyone follows me on like Twitter and Instagram, I've been doing Inktober this month, where you do like an ink sketch every day, and I actually did 2 from The Shining, which I was pretty happy with how they came up.
Yeah, don't plug that. I mean, you can go look at them. They're all shit. What you want to look at on Tim's Twitter is Goatman Meme Monday, which is a staple of Tim's Twitter presence.
That's one of my favorite things to do, and I really hope people like it, because if they knew how much time I put into like coming up with those.
Joe, it's so sad, Tim, is I know you're using Paint, and I'm like, this would be so much easier for you if you just use better software.
That's what makes it so special.
But he replaces scenes from movies with like a copy of his Goatman comic. So the one that I remember that's easy to explain is the start of Raiders of the Lost Ark, when Indy's going for the egg, but instead of the egg, it's a copy of Goatman Midnight Delivery issue 1.
Yeah, and then this month has been special because it's been Goat-Tober, as I call it. So it's all horror based.
Why not? I don't know. Call it Black Phillip month or something. I don't know. Pick a horror goat. Go with it.
It's funny because it does sound so forced.
All right, number 2 is The Shining. It's fantastic. So before I say number 1, I'm going to recap the list until this point. So I'm just going to fire through the 50 entries. Oh, sorry, I should say 49 entries so far. So here we go. Number 50 was Return of the Living Dead. 49, The Conjuring. 48, House of the Devil. 47, Friday the 13th, Part 4, The Final Chapter. 46, Rosemary's Baby. 45, Pontypool. 44, Creep, as in the 2015 found footage movie. Not to be confused with the 2005 British movie. 45 is 46 is Rosemary's Baby. Actually, no, I'm going backwards now. 43 is Carrie. Sorry, I'm back in the right direction. 42 is The Blair Witch Project. 41 is Aliens. 40 is The Evil Dead. 39 is The Fly. 38 is Gremlins. 37 is The Babadook. 36 is Wreck or Record. 35 is Nosferatu, 1979. 34 is Silence of the Lambs. 33 is Hellraiser. 32, You're Next. 31, Nosferatu from the 1920s. 22, I believe, is the year, if I remember right. Number 30 is Dracula, 1931. 29 is Eyes Without a Face. Classic. People should see that movie. Go watch that. It's a nice Criterion out for you. 28 is Frankenstein, 1931. 27 is The Omen. 26 is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. 25 is Shaun of the Dead. 24 is A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. 23 is American Werewolf in London. 22 is Black Christmas. 21 is Scream. 20 is The Mist. 19 is Insidious. 18 is The Descent. 17 is The Birds. 16 is A Nightmare on Elm Street. 15 is Let the Right One In. 14 is Poltergeist. 13 is Dawn of the Dead. 12 is It Follows. 11, Evil Dead 2. 10, Night of the Living Dead. 9, Cabin in the Woods. 8, Jaws. 7, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. 6, The Exorcist. 5, Psycho. 4, The Thing. 3, Halloween. 2, The Shining. And the number one horror movie, is voted for by you guys, is a sick joke upon this world, because it is The Boy.
Is it really? Are you kidding?
No, of course it's not really. Come on, Tim.
Okay.
Give our audience better credit than that, you fool. Number 1 is Alien. Yeah, there you go. You got it.
Okay. Well, it's kind of funny. I was assuming Alien, Shining, and Halloween would be the top 3, but I had them in like a completely different order. But
sure.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't argue it though. I mean, Alien. Again, this is another 10 out of 10 for me. It's absolutely fantastic. And I feel like I only appreciated it like in some of like the later years. Like it's not like I was never really against it, but I wasn't like a big Alien person, or the Alien franchise in general, like growing up. But I think it was at some point when I moved out here, I went with a friend to see Alien on the big screen, and I was just completely blown away. Like it's obviously it looks fantastic anywhere you watch it, but if you ever get the chance to see it on a big screen, it is really really phenomenal.
Alien and Aliens have aged so well. Like I feel like Alien and Aliens are movies that every time I watch them, they're better than the last time I saw them. And Alien especially, I think is maybe like I think I loved Aliens at a slightly younger age because it's a bit more actiony. But I think Alien is very slow paced and methodical. But it like as an adult now, I'm like no, that should not be. Do not change a second. And for the record, if you want to watch Alien, do not watch the director's cut, which was kind of like will force Ridley Scott to do something called a director's cut. No, watch the theatrical cut, the original version, because it is perfectly paced and it is the version of the film to see. Not to mention that the director's cut adds a scene that kind of clashes with continuity with the second movie. But the first film is like the set design is wonderful. The ship looks great. All the alien stuff from H.R. Giger looks great. The world feels lived in. It feels so like everything's like dripping and it's dark and metallic and it feels like an industrial ship. It's just so good.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the xenomorph is probably like the best creature design ever. Like I can't really think it like I mean at the bare minimum it'd at least be like top 3 for sure.
I mean, I love the design of the Predator, but yeah, I think the Xenomorph is definitely better, just in the sense that it's so. I mean, sure, once you see it in like bright light, you can kind of see how a human body fits into it. But the way it's shot and the way you see it, it never feels like a humanoid-looking thing. Whereas Predator is a great suit and mask, but it is kind of still just a human in a suit, kind of.
Definitely.
Like I guess I know the Alien is that, but it doesn't feel like that when you're watching it.
Yeah. It's just everything about it is so good, and again, similar to Nightmare on Elm Street, I also feel like, man, I feel like we need one more really good Alien movie. Like the last couple of ones have just been, not my taste at all. Like the Alien Covenant, I was really disappointed by.
Not my taste. That implies that some people would actually like them. Alien Covenant is an absolute dumpster fire of a movie. Holy shit. I can't... Because Prometheus is a movie that I tried to convince myself to like, and then when I watched it again, I hated it. And then... But Covenant was still somehow much worse.
Yeah. I think I was the same way with Prometheus. Like, when I saw it in theaters, I think I left going like, well, that was good, right? Like, I mean, it's Ridley Scott, so it had to be.
It looked nice visually. The ship and stuff looked quite good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just not what you want from an Alien movie. The characters were dumb, and it wastes such a good cast. There's like so many great actors in that movie. Some of whom, when I first saw it, I didn't even know. But Logan Marshall Green, who's in that movie, went on to be like one of my favorite working actors. He, between the TV show Quarry and then The Invitation, he was the main character in that. Like, that dude is fantastic when he's given like a great role. And
yeah, it's and it sucks because I feel like it's one of those franchises too where you always hear. Like, you always have some hopeful thing, like, oh, Neil Blomkamp is going to do a new one, and he's going to do this and that with it, and you get real excited, and then it doesn't end up happening. And
and he ended up leaving a RoboCop. He was going to do a RoboCop sequel as well, and then he left that. So now he's doing an original horror movie that's kind of like an alien serial killer that this cop's hunting kind of thing. It's called Inferno. No relation.
Oh, is that the one they just, like, talked about today?
Yeah. It's got.
They just broke the news. Yeah.
There's an actor attached to it. I forget who it was now, but there's an actor attached.
Oh, Taylor Kitsch.
Ah, there you go. That's the one.
Yeah. No, I mean that sounds really exciting, but I don't know. It's I mean we're veering off the actual movie itself, but I mean I'm sure it's a big enough franchise that eventually there has to be another good one. But but I mean if you just stopped. I mean, no, actually, no matter how many shitty sequels you get, you'll always have these first two movies. And I would even make an extent that, like, the third and fourth ones, while having a lot of flaws, I still have fun watching them.
Yeah, I don't hate watching them, especially Resurrection. I think there's a lot of fun stuff in that movie. But
I thought that was really bad until I went to, like, another, theater screening for that like this year, and I was like, oh, this is a lot of fun and has some interesting
I think
ideas. Like
the last like 15 minutes I hate, which is kind of what drags it down. But like the two things I really noticed watching that, especially as I've gotten older, is one, the visual style from director Jean-Pierre Jeunet. Like you can definitely see that European kind of color palette and stuff. And then the other thing is that the movie's written by Joss Whedon. And
of course.
What's weird about it is that obviously a lot of it's filtered through like the director and whatever else, but like you can kind of see almost like the crew of the little ship that comes in, that forms the main characters. You can almost like see how this was like an early like prototype in his mind for like Firefly. Like you can see like kind of this wacky crew that is together kind of thing. Totally. You got Ron Perlman in there. There's things to like about Resurrection.
Definitely, yeah. But I think at the very least it's at least an interesting watch versus like Covenant or something.
Or so much better than Covenant.
Or if you even want to talk about AVP or something, like those are just painful.
Oh my god, Alien vs Predator Requiem is such a turd. It's such a turd. Oh man. But no, Alien is number one. So there you go. That is the top 50 horror movies of all time, as voted for by you guys. So thank you very much for submitting those, and thank you for sticking with us to the Octoberthon. We're getting near the end of the month now. I'm not sure what day this is going up, but I think there's a few days left, maybe 2 or 3 days left by the time this goes up. So, hopefully you've been enjoying the episodes. Look forward to the next couple that are coming out. Let us know what you thought of the list. Reveal your own top list in the comments should you wish. You can support us by rating the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars, a nice little review if you want, because that like helps them share us out and recommend us more, helps us find a bigger audience. So you can do that. You can support us financially over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You can do it over there for as little as $1 per month, and you get an exclusive extra episode every month, exclusive to Patreon, where we do like just a regular episode, but it's for usually a wackier movie or something. And some of those are a hoot. For October, we've done a whole franchise. We did 4 bonus episodes for October. We did all the Wishmaster franchise, which I think, if they're not all up by now, I think the 4th one's like due in a day or 2, and so there's quite a back catalogue now. I think the 4th Wishmaster will be the 12th exclusive episode, so there's a little back catalogue now of episodes building up. So check out that, and then at the $5 tier you get to vote on an episode once per month. You get early access to some stuff. I do kind of want to start trying to do some early access stuff for streams. I'm not exactly sure how it'll work, but I'm contemplating the idea of some early access some way. I don't know what, but that'd be the $5 tier. Anyway, it pops up. But look for that. But that is us. So thank you very much. Check out other stuff we do. I do a sci-fi movie podcast that's kind of similar with Tara. It's called the Atomic Cinema Experiment. Check out that on the YouTube page, or indeed just find it on your podcast app. And check out all the TV reviews we do and all the other stuff. So that is us. So thank you once again. Happy October. Happy Halloween. It has been a pleasure. Keep watching scary movies, and we'll see you next time.